On this episode, we ask the tough questions. What's more enjoyable, a Thai wedding or a Western wedding?
So whether you prefer crazy parties, pious ceremonies, or moonshine-fueled parades, you'll enjoy this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 after running afoul of the notorious Northside Poutine Mafia, who you do not want to mess around with.
Great reference. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 24 years ago, fell in love with being able to predict the next box office hit in Thailand. It's going to be a ghost story with both humorous and dramatic elements, so I never left.
Wait. At some point during the movie, does someone open the door and have a guy standing there dressed in women's clothes and makeup?
Of course. And there's got to be some sounds like boing.
Yeah. Patoing.
Well, the reason I thought of this is that a Thai ghost movie recently won a prize at the Cannes Film Festival. Not the number one prize, but one of the side prizes, but a substantial prize. And of course, it's a ghost movie with comedic elements.
Oh man, that's funny.
I don't know if it has any ladyboys in it though. I'm not sure. Haven't seen it yet.
And the can crowd went wild when the boing sound effect came up.
All right, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about Greg's visit to Korat for the wedding of our good friend Dan, a discussion on why Thai drivers don't honk their horns too often, and another car-related story which saw a British influencer fight for 8 years to get his Lamborghini back from thieves who stole it in the UK and sent it to Thailand. To learn how to become a patron and get all this good stuff, plus full access to over 700 bonus and regular back episodes, click the support button at the top of our website.
You know, the other day I was sitting in traffic at a stoplight along with all the other plebs who were stuck in traffic. And a couple of cars up from me was a Ferrari, also stuck in traffic. And is schadenfreude the right word to use in that situation?
Yeah, I guess you could. I mean, presuming, but you are actually suffering the same there, but maybe they're suffering more because of how fast their car could be going.
Right. Or I'm suffering more because that was the last time I saw them, because once the light was green, then of course they took off at an incredible speed. All right. Well, in this episode, we are inspired by my recent trip to Korat to take part in the wedding of our good friend Dan to his lovely wife, Yui. Now, the funny thing about this topic is that Ed and I were discussing the merits of a Thai wedding versus a Western one, and we actually found out that we disagreed on which one is more enjoyable. I'm of the opinion that Thai weddings are always more fun, while Ed said he'd rather go to a Western wedding to have a good time. And both of us were surprised that the other guy disagreed, and that's what we're going to discuss here. That's right, kids. Mom and Dad are going to argue until they both agree to disagree. So I honestly, I was a little bit shocked when you said that you didn't think that Thai weddings were more fun, because I've always assumed that they are just more sanuk and enjoyable. But now you kind of got me second guessing myself and also my memory, because maybe I can't remember things as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, I totally disagree. But first I want to clarify this. I enjoy going to Thai weddings, but it's typically because of the people who are getting married. Like I had a great time at your wedding. So people who I know and you're happy for. So I'm not a hater. So I don't hate going to Thai weddings. But
right.
But if we're going to discuss just the fun factor of the event itself, maybe I've had bad luck, or maybe I've been stuck in maybe I've been stuck in Bangkok, and we talked about this already a little bit before the show. Maybe the weddings I've been going to are like Thai Chinese weddings. I'm not sure, but the Thai weddings I've gone to, I can just summarize it very quickly. They almost follow a formula. Basically, you start with a what in the States we would call a reception, is really how it starts. And then typically there's some picture taking, maybe a slideshow, and some speeches, but it seemed to be fewer than you would get in a Western wedding. And then you eat a giant meal, and that's it. That's the whole thing.
Interesting.
And it's like, you're in a banquet hall. There's big circular tables, so this has happened. I've had 4 or 5 weddings like this. Like, it's a pretty big circular table, so you're actually pretty far away from most people. And then it's Chinese style, where they just put a pig in the middle of the table and like spin it around. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying I hate it. I'm just saying that the event itself is really just a dinner. That's it. I don't think I've ever been to a Thai wedding where there's been a band that people have danced to, which is a staple at Western weddings. I mean, maybe not everyone, but that is the cliche American wedding. So for me, in terms of the event itself being fun, I would take a Western wedding for sure.
I think we have to establish a baseline here, though. I mean, what do you mean when you mean fun? Now, do you mean going out and partying and loud music and getting absolutely sloshed with people and hitting on bridesmaids?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's it. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, for me, like, I don't enjoy that. So for me, when I say a fun wedding, I mean maybe the word I'm thinking of is a more interesting or culturally deep wedding. I just find Western weddings to be very staid and predictable and photocopied. Whereas my experiences with Thai weddings have been just like an incredible amount of flexibility. And you're right. Sometimes it's just a banquet where you go and you sit at a table with strangers and you get that weird fish soup with the weird spongy junk inside, and it's gross, which are probably more Chinese style. But I've just found that when a Thai wedding gets a little bit creative, it quickly becomes really interesting and very enjoyable. But I've never had anything outside, like when a Western wedding is really fun and enjoyable, it doesn't seem to be anything other than getting sloshed with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your point, but I still think I would disagree with this. But first, let me make clear that I do find Thai weddings interesting when there are these cultural components. Like, I have been invited to some of the morning rituals. So listeners out there, Thai wedding days, you typically begin with a type of ceremony with monks or with parents in the morning that is very Thai and very traditional. And I have experienced this, and it's definitely cool. So like I said before, I'm not a hater.
That was my wedding. You carried
I did.
A banana or a coconut. I can't remember.
Were there like plants or palm fronds, or I feel like I had something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little parade, and some of my good friends you included.
But I think that's what I was carrying. I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. So I'm not a hater. I'm just saying, and that's of course to me that's culturally interesting, but
right.
I think you're being a little bit hard on wedding receptions. I mean, my point is that Western weddings begin very formal, typically with a religious ceremony. Not everyone, but a lot of people, it's either in a church or synagogue. So that, of course, is very formal and staid. Family is there. Then you move to the reception. And the reception is less formal than being in a church, but it's still fairly formal event. But people start eating. People start drinking. There's speeches. There's a kind of a tradition of the speeches being where there's an intent to be funny or to rib the bride, kind of rib the bride or groom.
Right.
So, and then, once the speeches are over, or maybe a slideshow or whatever, the cutting of the cake, then, the couple like shoves cake on each other's faces and everyone's laughing, and everyone's laughing. And then the band starts, and then you start to dance, and people are dragging people on the dance floor. And then, the typical thing is if you're 20s or 30s, you wait for the older people to go home or people with kids. And then weddings can just go off the hook. Like it's not like people are doing X and like raving all night. That's not what I'm talking about. But Western weddings they kind of go from formality to semi-formality, to a party, and it's just that's the American wedding. It's not just in movies. I've done it many times, and it's not like I'm a big dancer or anything like that, but like everyone else, if I do drink enough and someone drags me, and it's fun, and maybe I just missed that. I'm sure there's dancing at some Thai weddings. I just can't remember that I've done that at a Thai wedding. I've never been to an Isan style wedding, and I can imagine if I had to choose in terms of fun factor, I would probably go to an Isan wedding.
Right. Okay. Well, when you say you can't remember, but like in my wedding, there was dancing, but that was at the reception in the evening, not the formal ceremony in the morning.
Did we? I don't even remember. Okay, remind me. What did we do at the reception?
Yeah, it was huge. There was like 200 people there. We had it at the Siam Society on Asok.
Okay, I may have danced at your wedding. So maybe
there was a lot of dancing. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope there's no video of that. I'm not sure. I don't think I want to see that.
I don't think so. But there was definitely drinking and eating and dancing, and it was.
Well, you're also Canadian, so I mean, you're bringing in all these Western ideas. Ha.
Oh yeah, these weird Canadian ideas.
Yeah, you're bringing in this idea. It's a good question for listeners out there. It's actually a tricky problem because for most expats, they're obviously, if they get married in Thailand, they're usually marrying a Thai person, and so I think the wedding might tend to be more of a hybrid thing.
Well,
so what I'm talking about when Thais marrying, I'm talking about Thais marrying Thai people. This is the kind of wedding I'm talking about, and I'm not saying I didn't have fun while I was there, but it's fun because of the event, and you're celebrating the couple, and you get like fuzzy feelings about this is so beautiful, like they're so young, they haven't learned all the hard lessons of life, all of that. But I don't remember ever. I mean, I have had 3 glasses of wine at a wedding, but I don't remember. It's not a party. Just at least the Thai weddings I've gone to. It's a celebration of the, whatever. But I've been to some wild Thai bachelor parties, but that's a different topic. I'm talking about the wedding itself. I really want to get listeners' feedback. I think Thai weddings, with Thai people, it doesn't explode like at the reception. At least that's what I want to find out. Like I've never seen it.
This also overlaps into a Venn diagram of the perennial complaint that you and I have, self-complaint that you and I have about ourselves, is that we just don't have a lot of Thai friends.
As many people think. It's funny. I was thinking. I just went to a wedding a few months ago, and it was a former student of mine and a guy that she met who happened to be Malaysian, and it's almost the exception to what I'm saying because she happens to be a very fun person, and so the crowd. And she had a ton of friends there, but there still was no band and no dancing, but people were hanging out and drinking a lot. So it did have a very party atmosphere, and it started going late, and the older people went home. So it was a little bit closer, to what I'm talking about. But American wedding receptions are just renowned for getting off the hook and maybe even getting a little bit raunchy and guys are like creeping on the bridesmaids and like people are sneaking off into like a back corner. Like this is a hallmark of Western weddings.
Yeah, you're right. But like I said, that none of that really appeals to me, and that's fine. That's just my personal preference. But it's the same thing. It's you get alcohol, everyone gets drunk, and hitting on the bridesmaids and dancing and stuff like that, but that's it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
There's
nothing. Like if I was doing it every week, I'd be tired of it. But I went to weddings back in the States, once or twice a year, depending on what's going on. So I'm not doing it that often. And I agree with your point that it is predictable. There is a certain pattern, like that I outlined of the way it goes. So it is predictable. But you're in a good mood because you're friends of the couple, and there's just like love and romance and maybe some raunchiness in the air. That's just.
I didn't know you were so romantic.
No, it's just what I'm saying is they tend to devolve into like true parties, and I personally have never experienced that at a Thai wedding, unless I'm forgetting us getting wild at your reception. I just don't remember.
Well, let me talk about Dan's wedding for a minute. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Obviously, it was not my wedding, but it was held in Korat, close to Korat, which is sort of up by Khao Yai, sort of getting towards the Isan part of Thailand, and that's where his wife is from. And it started in the morning, about 7:29. I think the wedding started 7:19 or 7:29, an auspicious number, a.m. So it was an early start. And it started with a parade. And there was me and a few others, and we were holding the banana fronds and the coconuts and things like that as part of the traditional cultural ceremonies, which you can read more about online if you so choose. And it was basically a live Isan band. The guy with I forget what it's called, cool. the mouth organ, and he's just drums and the guitar thing. Anyway, and it was just fun. And we all just started dancing up this dirt road. And then someone came out with shots of Yadong, that's crazy. Thai herbal whiskey.
No, this sounds
like
great.
that.
I'm sure I would love this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were all doing shots at 7:30 in the morning and holding things and dancing.
Okay, this is an Isan. This is an Isan thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then basically Dan had to go through 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 gates. And when I say gates, I mean 2 of the bride's friends or family holding a garland, and Dan had to answer a trivia question about the bride, which is the same thing I had to do with my wife at my wedding, in my parade. And it was just all music, and it was all dancing. And I remember several times to several different people, foreigners, saying like, this is so much more interesting and so much more enjoyable than Western weddings. And everyone was like, yeah, I can never go back to Western weddings anymore.
Well, what you're describing, I personally never experienced, although, I mean, this has some similarities to yours. Really? Like I said before, any kind of Thai cultural aspect to the wedding, I support. And I've just never, I think this was a particularly well organized, like knowing Dan, I just see this whole thing as he is a producer, but basically, he creates good times. So again, not a hater. It's just, I've just been to too many just banquets. I don't know what to call it. So I'm guessing, I hope we got some Thai listeners out there who can help us with this. I'm guessing that my experience has mostly been limited to Thai Chinese. And it's just, again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it in a way, what I've experienced is kind of like the middle portion of an American wedding when you're eating dinner and maybe there's a slideshow.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
But then it's over. And I remember the very first one I went to, it was the son of the secretary in my office, who all the Americans in the office got along with a Thai woman who was secretary really well, so she invited us all to her son's wedding. And it was exactly like I've described. We were all in a good mood. And then we're just like waiting for the party to start. We eat this big meal and we're ready for things to go off. And then people just go home. There's no band, like no dancing, like there was no. Yeah. It was just dinner. It was dinner.
It's so funny. I agree with you on this point, and that we've all been to a lot of those weddings. And it was funny because my first wedding in Thailand was also the same, and I was teaching at the time, and one of the teachers got married, and I got an invitation to the wedding, and I was so touched. I was like, oh, right. I'm the new guy, and it's so nice that they thought so highly of me that they invited me to their wedding. And of course, I went and I sat down and I ate that weird brown fish soup and some fried rice, and then some long speeches by people I didn't know in a language I couldn't understand, and that was it. Yep. And then later on, it dawned on me like, oh, she invited everyone. I was just there.
I thought you were going to say that she invited you just because you were the farang.
Well, maybe that too, because of course you have to give out money. You have to give a gift of money when you come to the wedding. So maybe they thought I was rich or something like that. Sorry to disappoint you, random teacher who I don't remember. But yeah, those definitely do exist, and they're a bit too formal. And it's almost like they have aspired to take all the fun elements out of those weddings.
Right. Well, I'll just say this: my final position is that I would say Thai bachelor parties are wilder than Western bachelor parties, but Thai weddings are less wild. But doesn't mean they're not interesting or cool. It's just to me they're less of a party. But not so for Dan's. If you're doing shots of Yadong at 7:30 in the morning, then then that wins the award for partiness.
None of us had breakfast too by this point, so we were all pretty laughy. My final thought on this is that I think that while Western weddings are fun and enjoyable, I think that there's not a lot of variety, whereas
it's less. It is pretty predictable. I think you're right.
But yeah, and Thai culture lends itself to many different types of weddings, and they have the potential to be much more enjoyable than the scripted Western wedding, which seems to be standard. But
we'll just have to agree to disagree.
That's right. I think both of us should set a challenge. We got to make friends with more young people who are getting married, so we can be invited to more weddings. We should make our own little Wedding Crashers movie or something.
I agree. I mean, like I said, the last one I went to were young people, and it did kind of become a party. So it was a little bit of a hybrid.
Another wedding I mentioned recently was one of our listeners, Pim, who got married a few months back. And she got married at a swanky hotel in downtown Bangkok, and it was a party. Mostly because one of her uncles was a whiskey importer, I think. And
really?
He was being pretty liberal with his drinks. So,
gotcha.
So
that'll do it.
Everyone was having a pretty good time.
That'll do it.
But yeah. And hey, listeners, if anyone's getting married in Bangkok, we'll show up. We'll have a good time. We'll raise a glass, give a speech.
Greg will eat the fish soup.
That's right. I'll eat the fish soup. Ed will dance, cut a rug, and we'll make the evening go down. So anyway, we'd love to hear from you, listeners. Do you prefer Western weddings? Do you prefer Thai weddings? Why or why not? Let us know.
Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe I've just been missing out.
Maybe we've both had some boring / fun times. We're just getting too old to remember what they were. Or they've all glommed together into one
I have
story.
no memory of dancing at your wedding. That's funny.
I got to go back and look at the photos now and see what I can find. All right, let's do a Would You Rather, where one of us picks two contrasting situations tied to Thailand to debate and choose which one we prefer. Ed, this week, you're on stage, man.
Okay, a little bit. Maybe this might be a little bit odd, but and I'll tell you why I thought of this in a minute. So, Greg, you know this. Listeners, in Thailand, it's very common for there to be street dogs, not necessarily all over the place, but they're pretty common. And then cats are also pretty common. I feel like cats are maybe not as common as street dogs, but basically dogs and cats living all over the place. Compared to an American city where that's just not allowed or very rare, or they capture dogs, or people aren't. I think what's going on in Bangkok is people are leaving food out for cats, and
right.
So essentially, there's wild animals roaming the streets. So I want you to choose. Do you prefer a situation where there's street dogs and cats, or you prefer? I think is the general Western trend. I don't really know about Europe. Are there dogs just roaming around Italian cities?
I don't know. I've never been to.
I got no idea.
Don't remember when I was in Europe.
Are there dogs roaming around Paris?
I know there's tons of cats in Turkey, in Istanbul.
Oh, really?
It's like the city of cats. Yeah.
So yeah, what do you prefer? This is a little bit tough because there's kind of almost maybe even some moral questions involved. If you could choose to live in a city with or without street dogs and cats, what would you prefer?
Well, that's interesting. It's hard to answer because if you see a whole bunch of street dogs in a country like Canada or a Western country where there are strict regulations and laws around this stuff, you would probably default to them being slightly dangerous.
Right, of course, sure.
But if you see a bunch of dogs here, well, they could also be kind of rabid and stuff, but you also think that they're much more common. So I've seen far more friendlier dogs than I have aggressive dogs here.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just say less because then I have less chance of stepping in some dog crap or something on the street. Yeah, and if a dog is not being loved and cared for by a family, then, I mean, I don't want to say they've got no use, but what are they doing? They're sort of left to scavenge and be wild, which is, I don't think, a very happy life. So yeah, I'd say probably better just to either have them as pets or keep the populations down. Yeah.
All right. That is the Western approach. I'm completely torn on this because I actually like seeing them it makes the city more interesting. And plus, I take a lot of pictures. And I just thought of it. I was at my university today, and there's a very cool looking cat with like super green eyes that everyone takes pictures of. Everyone, all the students. And she was sitting around today. And so I was taking her picture. And she must be, I mean, she's wild, but someone like the janitor at the university must be feeding her because like she's just been there for years. And it's cool. You know, like it's kind of cool, like to have dogs and cats just kind of running around outside, and I'm not saying they have a great life, but they seem to be basically okay. Like I said, like Thai people are taking care of them. So I think it's cool. But on the other hand, intellectually, I just think it's wrong. You know, so I'm with you. It's like I really think that, you know, I think there's public health issues. Obviously, they do occasionally bite people. So I kind of feel that the Western approach is the right thing to do.
I would agree.
But I actually like street dogs and cats. It just makes the city more interesting. It's part of the personality of the city.
Hey man, if I see a friendly cat on the side of the road, I try to stop me from bending down and giving it a couple of scritches behind the ear, right? But
that's right. No, it's cool.
Yeah,
animals are cool.
They're cool, but as long as they're being well taken care of, otherwise they're just sort of feral, and that's no good for anyone.
And, you know, if the world needs one thing, it needs more pictures of cats.
That's right. Well, I want to see the one with the green eyes. That sounds cool. Send it over.
I will. I'll send it.
Put it in the show notes.
I can do that.
With their email. Cool.
Okay, a final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online or Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. And don't forget to check out each episode on YouTube. Send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show. Hit me up on Blue Sky at BKK Greg. Thank you for listening, everyone. Get married, celebrate anniversaries.
Have a fun wedding.
I'll see you back here next week.
For sure.